What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video here on the Torq channel. Today we are talking turbocharging your Holden V8. Now, as you can see behind me here, this is my project car, my VR. I've recently pulled the engine, transmission, all the turbo kit and all that stuff out, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to throw all the kit on an engine stand and just give you guys a bit of a rundown on exactly how I've gone about it. Give you guys some ideas maybe. I'll just show you how simple the manifolds are. Like, it's a really basic kit, and it's worth looking into if you want to try and get a little bit more power out of your humble Holden 5 litre, because 165 kilowatts in standard form is pretty lackluster to say the least. And yeah, the Holden gets a pretty bad rap for how much power they can make, or at least how much money you have to spend on them to make the power. So turbocharging it can be a pretty inexpensive.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
Way of going about it if you're handy on the tools and whatnot. So what I'll do is I'll bolt the turbo kit on, and then I'll give you guys a look at an overview of the kit, and yeah, we can go from there. Okay, so here we go. This is the engine in question, the humble 5 litre Holden V8. This is my favourite engine ever made. That's a sad truth. And here it is in 100% stock form. This is an old, this is a new old stock crate engine. This was pulled out of what was going to be I can assume a GTS or Senator, and it would have had the stroker motor fitted. And this is the motor that gets pulled out and sold as a crate motor from AMCAP or Holmart or whoever it is. But as you can see, this is stock as a rock. Still has the factory ignition leads on it. You know, it's still got all the stuff. It's got all the factory loom on it. Still has the barcode on the back of the head. Yeah. This engine is supposed to have about 20,000 kilometers on it when I bought it. That's what I was told. It doesn't matter really. I just bought it as a motor to put in the car initially and just test the turbo kit and basically just get the car going, and then we can put the good stroker motor in after everything's proven, and I've got a few more bits for it. But anyway, here it is, and I just want to go over what's involved in making a little setup like this. So this is the turbo kit that I have made for my vehicle to go in, and it's commonly referred to as a reverse casty kit. So as you can see, this manifold here is exactly the same as this one here. And what you do is you use 2 of the passenger side manifolds, and you get a few bits of steam pipe, some flanges, a turbo, and a wastegate. You join them all together and you've got yourself a cool turbo kit. So we're going to bolt all this stuff on here, and I can show you guys just how simple the turbo kit is to do. So check this out. Alright, so as you've just seen in that time lapse, I've removed the manifolds, the power steering and the aircon. The reason I've done that is because I've done things a bit differently compared to most. I've put the turbo on the driver's side, so that stuff needs to be removed in order for the manifolds and the turbo to fit. So now let's bolt the manifolds on and see how it all fits on the stand. So here we go. I've got the manifolds all bolted up loosely, turbochargers on, wastegates on, oil feed and oil drain, etc. They're all on. Now, the first thing I'll address straight away is the fact that I have put this turbo on the opposite side to what most people would and probably should do. In the VR Commodores, or actually most of the early Commodores, the battery and all that carry on is right where that turbocharger is. Now, the reason I've put the turbo over there is because this intake manifold on the engine is not the one I'm utilising. I have another intake manifold. It's a little bit different to the standard one right there. I'll show you guys that one on another video. But yeah, that's a general overview of the kit. This is just your garden variety 165 kilowatt Holden 5 litre that come out in the VN to VS range. And we're doing our best here to make a little bit more power. So I'll go over a few of the features. So first up, this is the Garrett GDX 4294. Now this is the baby of the GDX 42 range. It has the 94mm exjuicer. It's a 70mm inducer, whereas the GDX 4202, that's the 75 or 76mm inducer with the 102 exjuicer. So that one puts out a little bit more steam. The turbines on the turbos are both the same. The turbine on this one is a 1.01, so it's fairly tight, but it should work good with the 5 litre capacity that I plan on keeping this one at. For initially anyway, I have a 355 that I'm building as well, but this is sort of the fill-in donk while that one gets built. Next up, we have the Turbo Smart 50mm wastegate. This is the light version. So basically, I have a different set of rocker covers as well that they are a little bit more squarer, and they're actually pretty close to where I've got the wastegate. So I got the light version to get the more compact one, although I don't think the smaller top hat really helped me in the end. But anyway, this is the light version. So it's got, I think this cap might be off like the 45mm gate that they have. They've just put the smaller cap on, and basically the difference between the light and the regular 50mm gate is the cap is smaller, so therefore the stroke on the valve is not as much, so you don't get as much valve lift on the valve, which limits the flow compared to the standard 50mm gate. I think it should be fine. It should do just good for what we're doing. The next thing I've got here is just your I've done a hard line in stainless for the turbo feed, and I've also put a Turbo Smart oil feed filter on there, just in case if we have any catastrophic failures, we don't have crap going through the turbo. Now, on the front of the engine here is, I've got this viscous fan, and this is all the standard pulley setup and standard like mechanical water pump and standard timing cover. Now, on the engine that's going in my car, and on the mock-up engine, the other one I have, I have a billet timing cover. I've got an electric water pump, and I've got the reed speed 6PK alternator drive for it as well, because the alternator is usually bolted right here, but I've got it off at the moment. So, but for you guys, if you are looking at turbo in your car, you would 9 times out of 10 you will put the turbo on this side of the engine. Obviously there's no steering or anything down this way, and you'll have a lot more room. Actually, I'll show you in the engine bay. You come over here, because I have had a couple turbo kits in this car. So as you can see, that's the sort of hole that I've got in the car for where that turbocharger sits. I do have to infill a little bit through here, but that is where we're at. I was originally going to, it's hard to tell, I'm only halfway, not even halfway through doing this, guys. It's early stages of cleaning up the engine bay. I've just knocked, there's usually a dent there, and there's usually a rise there for the ignition module. I've knocked those down. I've replace this tray and whatnot. But anyway, getting back to it, I was originally going to I originally cut this out here and had this raised all the way up, and that was I was going to put the turbocharger under there and have it hidden, but I changed my mind, went above, so I've had to re-weld, and I've still got a little bit to go on that. It looks a bit haggard, but I'll get there in the end. I've got one of the pooches. There's the other pooch. So yeah, that's the sort of, I forgot to show you guys. On a standard setup, that's probably where you'll, if you've got anything bigger than 2 3/4 dump pipe, you probably will have to either notch the chassis rail down there or cut a hole in the side there to put your dump pipe through. So long story short, put the turbo on this side. It's way easier than putting it on this side. There's all fuse box stuff, battery stuff in the original setup that I've had to remove all that, and that's where the dump pipe goes. It goes down through there, and then it hooks under the chassis rail and comes along there. So that just gives you a bit of an understanding about what the hell I'm talking about. So we'll come over to here. Now that's the dump pipe that we were just talking about. This is a 4-inch stainless steel dump pipe that I've made. And what we've done down here is I've got in contact with like a truck exhaust supply place. That's the first one I found for these slip joints. I didn't have enough room for a V-band or even just like a normal 3 or 4 bolt flange. The transmission is like right here, and also the chassis rail and all that stuff as well. That's all super close. So I've just got the slip joint. It's a bit of a pain to fit the exhaust when you're trying to fit it on the car, even on the lift, but you can do it. And it was really, I had no other option. If I wanted to run a 4-inch dump pipe with a 4-inch intertwin 3-inch exhaust, that's what I had to do. I'll show you guys, I'll do a big rundown of the whole project properly later, but there's a quick little sneak peek at half the exhaust system that I've done. We'll look into more detail with this stuff later as we go. But anyway, getting back to the kit, let me come around this way and show you guys. You can see it utilizes the standard exhaust manifolds. Now these manifolds come out on, I'm pretty sure it's just the VR and VS range. VN and maybe VP have a more tubular style, exhaust style manifold, I'm pretty sure. And I think the VT cast headers are a little bit different again, I think. I can't remember. I'm not a crazy train spotter with this stuff. I've forgotten a lot about it. But anyway, that's the stock passenger side cast manifold. And as you can see on this side, we've got another stock passenger side cast manifold. So basically I've just joined it up with this stuff here. It's 2-inch Schedule 40 steam pipe, really thick, really easy to work with, and it's also really cheap. Now I haven't sent this off for coating or anything yet. It's just sitting there. It will get sent off to get coated and whatnot. It won't look like crap forever, but for now that's just how it is. So here's the crossover pipe. So this comes from the bank on the passenger side, and right here is where I put the flex bellow. So that's the sort of flex bellow you guys want to be trying to use. It's not, the other like mesh style ones that you use on exhaust systems, they're not ideal because they're not really designed to have pressure behind them. They're designed to be on an exhaust system, whereas a turbo manifold has pressure inside basically, and especially on a kit like this kit will have a decent amount of back pressure. It's only a T4 flange. You can make tons of power with a T4 flange, but when you start getting into the big boy stuff, you'll get into the T6 territory. So this is a T4, and with the log style manifolds and all that, there's going to be back pressure. So for every bit of boost that this thing puts out, you're going to have, I don't know the ratio. The ratios are always going to change depending on how big your engine is, capacity wise and stuff. If you've stroked and that, it's going to be worse, but you're going to have back pressure. At a minimum, it's going to be 1-to-1. Like ideally it'd be 1-to-1, but in a T4 single turbo setup like this, there's a good chance you're going to have more than 1-to-1. It's probably going to be more like 1.2 or 1.5, or it can even get up to 2-to-1. So that is really a basic overview of the turbo manifolds. I reckon anyone could do it, and I'll show you what I've done. This is the standard manifold there again. So what I've done basically is I remove these studs, which they pretty much always snap when you try and remove them. So what I do is when they snap, you just put a nut over the top and weld it, and then when it cools, that will usually release the thread, and you can just use a spanner and unscrew the studs out. And the next thing you can do, there's a few different ways, but what I like to do is remove this. You can either make a flange with the same angle on it, and it will seal up on there like it does in factory, or what I've done is I just cut this off. You can either get it milled flat, or cut it off and just file finish it flat, and then make it. It's an odd size flange. You'll have to either hand make it or get it laser cut or whatever, but it's pretty easy to hand make these things. You just use a bit of 12mm plate or flat bar or whatever, and so once you've got your flanges and your log manifold ready, that's 1.5 inches. So this is the stuff here. This is 2-inch Schedule 40 butt weld fittings. They're really cheap. Like really cheap. They're probably less than, I can't remember how much they are, but like I'm talking like 8, 10, 12 bucks each sort of deal. Like they're cheap as, and they're super thick, so they're easy to weld. It's not super thin like your 1.6mm stuff. And yeah, that's the sort of stuff you do. You can build one of these for a really cheap price. Even the stainless steel, that's not really that bad either, but you can just use mild steel. The other thing I need to mention is the drain. So right here, I've just used a stainless steel bend fitting here with some straight. And I basically done that with this tube, the inside diameter of this tube is bigger than the -10 line over here. So it just gives you a little bit more flow for the angle that I've got. And it also can withstand, obviously, the heat of this turbine, or this, the turbo housing there as well. It's not going to deteriorate from the heat. And then what I've used over here is, so this is a -10 weld on, and this is all Speedflow. So this is a Speedflow 100 series stainless steel line that obviously, just so we've got a bit of flex, this manifold's going to move around once it heats up. So that is why I've put the flex on there. Now this, obviously, like I said before, this isn't the timing cover I'm using. I have a billet one, and I got a fitting, I can't remember the size of the fitting actually. It was a metric washer seal fitting, and what I did is I just drilled and tapped into the side of the billet timing cover, and just, so yeah, on the timing cover I'm using, there's a fitting on there, and that will bolt up to there. So that's how you get your oil out. That's how you get your oil in. Over here, see, it's not fitting up really well. I will, obviously, like I said before, once I put the other timing cover on, there is a T-piece that goes on the oil pump here, and one of the ports goes to the oil feed, and then I have the other port that goes for the oil pressure gauge. So that's just a brief overview. Well, I tried to make it brief anyway, as brief as I could. Overview of the turbo manifolds on my setup. Now, they're a good thing. The potential for performance is pretty decent. There's guys that have run into the 8-second range on casty setup, just, similar to that, with larger turbo, a proper setup car and all the rest of it. But you can make on a stock motor with just camshaft and springs and, a small, turbocharger in the 66mm range or whatever. You can make good power, like, over 400 plus you can make, it just depends how far you want to push it, what fuel, etc., etc. But Anyway, that is going to wrap up to today's video. If you have any questions about what I've spoken about, anything about the kit in particular, if I can answer them I'll answer them in the comments. But as always, don't forget to like and subscribe and all that stuff, and I'll see you on the next one.